Hey there. Got me? Great.
You're right, Sue. You can go.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to Sacred You. We are a wonderful panel where we discuss how we touch lives everywhere. Now, our topic tonight is the 5 faces of love that drive relationship success or failure. And we have some amazing panelists who have brought years of experience to exactly this topic. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in just a moment. Sacred You produces many panel discussions just like this. We bring on expert panelists who have expertise that you might not find elsewhere. And what's different about it is that each one brings their uniqueness, and then we blend it all up, we mix it all up, and we turn it into something exciting for this conversation. So I hope you'll stay with us. And if you have questions, please do put them into the chat, and we will do our best to talk about them. So we're going to start right now. Panelists, would you like to, let's just see who we've got. Donna, how would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Aloha, everyone. I'm calling in from the beautiful big island of Hawaii, the Healing Island. And I am a soul-to-soul eco-entrepreneur, coach, positivity coach, and a lover of life, of all life kind. And I do healing arts retreats here and teach about love with my clients here on the Big Island and online. And I love that I'm here and have the opportunity to share with you my experience with long-lasting love and how you can take some of these beautiful tools and implement them into your lives. So welcome, everyone.
What a beautiful introduction. Thank you, Donna. Dr. Ida Greene, who hails all the way from California. Tell us a little bit about you, please.
Yes, I am Dr. Ida Greene. We're many faces of love in terms of also registered nurse, I'm an ordained minister, coach, intuitive coach, and also looking to help heal the planet right now in terms of the love connection. And that's where I kind of start from, self-love and looking at love on all the faces of love. So to me, love is very important because it's an integral part of who I am and how I show up in the world.
I think you've got some very interesting pieces to put into this conversation tonight, Ida. Do I call you Dr. Ida or Ida?
Yes, that's my spiritual name.
So you prefer to be called Dr. Ida then?
Yes, my spiritual name.
Fantastic. Thank you. And finally, Julie DeLucca-Collins.
Hi, Sue, and hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I am a Tiny Habits certified coach, but more importantly, I'm an author, speaker, and the host of the Casa de Confidence podcast. I work with incredible women who want to become the CEOs of their life and business. And really, all of that begins with self-compassion, self-confidence, and self-love. So this conversation is really close to my heart.
Oh, this is going to be such a richly textured conversation tonight. If you have a comment, let's try and turn this into an interactive conversation where if you see a spot in what somebody else is saying, there's a little bit of a space for you to pop in, gently interject whatever it is you want to say so that it without bouncing the other person off. That would be wonderful. So we are talking about the 5 faces of love that drive relationship success or failure. And one of the things that I've discovered in all the years that I've been doing, working with love and relationship, is that love, all success with love starts with self-love, and it ends with loving mankind. Bringing yourself into that conversation, into that work, into that healing of mankind, so that what comes in between is what defines how successful we individually are at staying true to ourselves while bringing ourselves fully to our passions and our daily lives successfully. So I'm just going to introduce for our our audience the 5 faces of love that drive relationship success or failure. And these are the ones that I put together for this conversation. You may or may not agree with me, and please weigh in and during our conversation and let me know that. The first is self-love. Obviously, what does it look like? How does it affect how you connect with others for intimacy, support, friendships, family, and business? Love of compassion, love of passion, love of curiosity, and finally, love of mankind. So self-love, compassion, passion, and love of mankind, or curiosity and love of mankind. Before we get to the questions I have for our panelists, a book was written about 20 years ago, became very, very famous by a psychiatrist by the name of Gary Chapman. And the purpose of his writing this book, it was all about love and how to improve love in your relationships. And it was designed to improve communications in love relationships. And I'm going to give you his top 5. And we may bring them in, but we may not. So just as a comparison, words of affirmation, what we say to people that tell them that we love them, that we're connected with them, that we care about them. Quality time, the amount of time we spend with them and how willingly we give that. But not our quality time, their quality time. Receiving gifts. I give you something, I earn your love. Acts of service, doing the nice things without being asked, and physical touch. Actually physically putting your hands on the person that you want to let you know that you love them and being there with them physically. So you can see how these particular 5 faces are part of, but different from the 5 that we're going to be talking about tonight, which are self-love, compassion, passion, curiosity, and love of mankind. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the questions, ladies. Question number 1. Let's go to your client question. Yeah, let's go to your clients first, if you don't mind. Okay. Where do your clients seem to get stuck in relationships in general most often? Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Okay, Ida. Dr. Ida.
Yeah, for me, it seems, but most of them have problem with using the words. It's like what they're saying and what the other person's hearing are 2 different things. And so they are coming from their perspective of what they want to say. And the other person has a different perception. They hear something different, what they said, what the person said, and it causes conflict. So I have to help them to facilitate communication so that both hear the same thing, because they often hear different things than what the person said. They put their intention or their interpretation on top of what the person said, and that's what causes a conflict, because they're speaking 2 different languages.
Okay, right. They're having the same conversation, but 2 different languages. So you're the facilitator of that. Okay, so that's it's communication where your clients seem to get stuck the most.
Mm-hmm. Communication.
Thank you for opening with that. That's great. It's wonderful. Who would like to go next?
I'll chime in. I find that most people struggle with self-love and self-doubt. And there's, it's so interesting. You keep saying mankind, and I work primarily with women too. And, then we say humankind, but being a naturivore and somebody who is very grounded to the earth, I say life kind, because mankind gives us mankind, right? So so especially working with women, we've been hearing mankind. So what does that do to your, as a woman, when everything is put in that masculine domain? And so I'm also an author and a speaker, and I speak a lot to this on when we talk about loving the earth, loving one another, being strong, independent, secure women. And if women are nurturers, the Mother Earth. And so when we're talking about life kind, and as soon as I can get someone to stop feeling like a woman, especially a woman, entering into this mankind world, and they're responsible in being in that life kind. You don't see that gender difference. You see, wow, there's a more self-acceptance. There's a more of a self-respect. And I can't emphasize this enough. And as far as, like, I loved what Dr. Ida was saying in her introduction about how do we heal the earth. And I think the first thing that I try and get across with women who are dealing with lack of confidence and integrity, you know, let's go back and look at those male dominant voices that have tried to crush your spirit, and that can happen in a session. And then once we're looking at life kind, and we come into our power, and we realize that we look at the earth, which is suffering the most and needs maximum love right now. We are in a more proactive position we don't have time for self-doubt. We don't have time to not love ourselves. And so that is, to me, probably where I'm going to chime in the most in this discussion, to getting all of us who are listening to this to change. How do we change our mindset around what it means, what love is?
So you're almost talking about a gender neutral, multi-dimensional form of love that has almost nothing at all to do with the person themselves, taking themselves outside themselves?
Yes.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Taking ourselves outside ourselves, but within ourselves too, that the God is within, the kind is within, the life is within, not the mankind that is within.
We're going to continue this. We're going to continue this because I've got so many more questions, and I want to find the perspectives that each of us has on all the questions. So we're going to go now to Julie. Julie, the question is, where do your clients seem to get stuck in relationship most often?
You know, thank you so much for the question. I think that this is one of the things that I am always looking for parallels. And Donna, you know, what you just shared, and Dr. Ida as well, I agree with that. The one thing for me where I would take it a step further is I see my clients struggling with that self-love and then looking for the self-love outside of themselves. And then they start to look at others to fill that void, right? So that we look for the affirmation, we look for the for people to act, and you know, the concept of habit, we have a manual for other people, because when people act a certain way, then we feel like, oh, I'm going to be validated. And going back to words of affirmation, gifts, all of that, we're looking for people to speak that love language that we desire. Yet the reality is that nobody else can fill the void for the self-love we ourselves are not giving ourselves. So the first thing that I see in my clients is that when they're struggling, hey, my children, my husband, my friend, my sister, my mother, they're not getting the validation through those relationships, it really goes back to they themselves are not putting themselves first. They're not validating themselves first, and they are requiring their value to come outside of themselves. So that's one of the biggest things that I see within my clients. And honestly, because I am my best client, I will tell you that when I struggle is because I start to desire for somebody else to fill the void of self-love that maybe I am not spending enough time in loving myself. So that's what I see.
That's why I gave such a different list of 5, with self-love being the very first, and love of life kind, making that correction, being the end game, with compassion for ourselves first, and then for everybody else. Passion for what we bring to the excitement we bring to our lives, and then looking for the passion in other people, and curiosity. And so now we're going to go to our next. I'd like to thank all 3 of you. Dr. Ida, you started it with a very, very good interpretation that we could all identify with. And I think our audience can too. So I thank you so much, Dr. Ida, for starting it. And then for each one of you for building onto that with your own flavor. Question number 2 is, if we go to the old Dr. Chapman's 5 love languages, we get stuck in an old paradigm. If we expand a little bit, because I really wanted to shake up people's brain cells a little bit and use the 5 that I provided, which of the 5 faces that I put out there to hung up to dry, so to speak, could be easiest for your clients to adopt first, and which seems most difficult? So they are, again, self-love, compassion, passion, curiosity, and mankind. Would you like to start, Julie? Since you're already
I can
on
take
here?
that. I can
Thank
take
you.
that. Thank you. I think that, again, and taking a cue not only from myself, but what I see throughout the individual clients that I have is curiosity is the first thing that I think is the easiest for us to really be able to adopt. That doesn't have that much of an investment. Curiosity is something that we can connect with, and going from not seeing something to then saying, oh, I wonder, or what if, and just being that neutral observer. That's a very easy role to adopt, because when we are used to not being compassionate to ourselves, when we are used to self-love is something that we haven't practiced for a while, or even explore what our passions are, those are, I think, bigger steps in the ladder of self-love.
Mhm.
But curiosity for me would be that great, easy to do. And again, as a tiny habits coach, I can tell you that that's the one thing that if you create something so doable for yourself and then celebrate that you did it, you start to create those new neural pathways in your brain, and you can then start to build from that. So that would be the answer that I have for that.
Okay, so that was your answer for which could be the easiest of the new
Yeah, the
faces.
easiest. Yeah.
Which do you think would be most difficult?
I think that, for me, would probably be self-compassion. I think that at times it's easy to love. We can love things about ourselves. We can love facets of the things that we bring to the table. But compassion is actually going a step further. And I think they build on each other. You can feel compassion for someone and not love them, but the really true compassion that really involves love is that putting them first comes from really having self-love first. So self-compassion, I think, for me at least, and what I see in others, is the hardest to do.
Artist. Wow. Thank you so much for that. You just encapsulated it perfectly. Who'd like to add on next?
I would like to add on that, because I was thinking that we overlook self-love, and to my knowledge, no one talks about it. It's like an invisible thing that people are just afraid of it, and we desire. It's a deep urge inside of us, that a void that needs to be filled, and we don't feel it. It's just really, just think about it. People don't talk about it. It just is not discussed. But I think it's easier to have compassion for yourself, but we don't have compassion for ourselves. So we are in such a left brain dominant place that self-love and compassion is just missing in all of us. And it has to be missing in a relationship, because if you don't have inside of you, when you bring you to the discussion, to the relationship, and there's a void there, there's nothing to connect to. There's no self-love, there's no compassion. So there's nothing, no foundation to really, no glue to keep things together. So I'm pretty, well, not for myself, I feel that love, self-love, and compassion are 2 things that I need so that I can show it to someone else. Because I don't have self-love and compassion for myself, I'm certainly not going to be able to even have self-love or compassion for another person. So those are 2 things that I need to grow inside of me constantly, so that I can come from the inside out and be able to share it with the world.
Okay. So then can you still hear me well enough? Can you hear me? Great. Okay. So what you've given us, Dr. Ida, is the 2 that are most complicated, most difficult, right? Is there anything in the 5? I know self-love is out, self-compassion is out. But passion and curiosity in mankind. Is there any one of those three that is a little bit easier for people in your practice to connect with?
What I'm finding is that people are not curious. They don't want to know what the other person's thinking. They really want to look at themselves, and they have a lot of passion, but that's outward. And we need to go inside and the inner side, because these other things things inside, and we have to be compassionate with myself. If I can be compassionate with you, I have to love myself if I can love you, and really be curious about who you are. And sometimes people are not as curious as I would like to see them, or they think, well, they're not want to look inside. They just go right to the exterior. So we're missing that inner part, that soul part. That's so much the glue that keeps everything together.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that sometimes people have to hear just how on the one side, how easy it is to connect with certain pieces of it, which could be curiosity as being the easiest and least threatening for some people, not everybody. But at the same time, that there are pieces of all of these love languages or love faces. Let's call them love faces rather than languages. They're difficult. They're all difficult in some capacity until they reach a certain point. And that's our work, your work, my work, our other experts' works, is to help our clients with their specific needs to transition out of the stucker place, I like that word, stucker places, and into a more loving relationship with themselves. Ida, thank you. I mean, it's hard for people to hear that it's hard to find those love faces right across the board, but it's true. For a lot of people, they can't find it anywhere. And that's your job. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful share. Okay, next, please.
Can I chime in on that then?
You absolutely can. I was just inviting you. Come on in.
I'm gonna feel so loved. It's so great because it's hard to talk about self-love without self-care. And so when I'm working with a client, and especially because most of them are business clients, people are always like, I got to write my business plan, my marketing plan, I got to do, my budget, all these things, right? And so we take a step back and we do a life plan. We call it a self-care life plan, which brings about self-love, because when you know who you are, what you love to do, and what your purposeful why is, those are those three golden rules to help you in the way I work. But having self-care and really understanding what that means, because the hardest part, one of the things I absolutely love about what everybody said, but also your question of well, what's the hardest one, this mankind or this life kind? Because if you're feeling terrible physically, it affects you mentally. It affects you, like Dr. Ida said, your soul. So this self-care, the practices that we do every day, like Julie's talking about these tiny habits, which I totally agree with, but those are those self-care things. What do you do each and every day, that self-care that allows you to have that self-love, that brings on the compassion for yourself, the compassion for others, which stimulates the passion? Because when you don't feel good, you don't have passion, you can't have compassion for everybody else. You certainly can't love yourself. And for sure, the last thing you're going to be thinking about is life kind or humankind or mankind or whatever it is.
Okay.
Because you're so caught up in how horrible you feel or what medication you're going to be taking to take away the pain. So self-love and self-care, and that is as hard as it is to make those tiny habits or making those shifts, they become the most logical and reasonable and doable, actionable things, because there's enough science, there's enough evidence that what we put in our mouths, on our bodies, and in our minds are going to affect all those other love languages.
I'm going to ask you to for just a second.
Yeah.
We have a new audience member that just joined us. Jeanette, welcome. We're so happy to have you. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and somebody will let me know that they're there so I can ask them of our participants, of our experts. So before we continue, would you mind telling us which of the 5 faces that we've talked about is the easiest for your clients and which is the hardest? Just not explaining them, just which one is easiest, which one is hardest. So we get a summary, pull it all together.
And are you asking me this or the new
I
gal?
am asking you. Yeah.
So the easiest and the most important one is to work on self-love, self-care. And as hard as it is for some people to do that, it becomes easy because when you give someone permission to care for themselves and to love themselves, once they get beyond that, they're unstoppable. When they're feeling good and they know that they have permission to love themselves, then that's like the ripple effect, a pebble in a still pond that's going to radiate all around them, and it becomes contagious. And then the hardest would be this mankind, or as I say, life kind, because if you don't have that, you'll never get to that last love because you don't care, because you don't feel good. Your whole world is wrapped up in your own personal drama, trauma, pain.
Spinning around you
in your negativity. And we want to bring people to that positivity right from the beginning. And it's like I said, there are so many tools and so many modalities and tiny habits that we can implement each and every day. You can recreate your skin every single day. Your cells regenerate. Every single 7 days, your liver starts to regenerate, your whole digestive system in 2 weeks. So why would we start trying to be compassionate and passionate for someone else when we can't do it for ourselves? So we have to clean up our internal stuff, our mental baggage that we have, and we go from there. And some people, it happens pretty instantaneously. Some people can say, I'm quitting smoking today, or I'm going to stop eating sugar. And for other people, they need a little bit more help in that area. But
well, thank you so much for sharing that out, because I think whoever's going to be watching, listening to this, may see themselves in what you just shared. That's brilliant. Can I go on to the next question? Let's start with you. And again, keep it as concise as you can. What's the most consistently successful advice you give to your general clientele? Most consistently successful. The one that seems to grab them and easiest for them to work with.
The closer you get to nature, the closer you get to your true nature.
Perfect. You got it. You nailed it. Okay. Who would like to next answer that question? Dr. Ida, Julie, who'd like to jump in with that? What's your most consistently successful?
Yeah, for my clients, it's always outside of them. They have trouble going within to their heart, to their feeling, to their emotion. And I think for myself, I did everything outside of me, so busy doing all these external things. And I finally realized I had to go within and love myself and take care of myself. And so that's why I got rid of all the dogs and the cats and all these things, because I was taking care of somebody all of my life. And I realized no one was taking care of me. So I had to finally start taking care of me and giving me self-love. And I had to give all the kids I adopted and whatever, and start giving me that love. So I'm in this phase now of self-love, whereas before was everyone else except me. I came last. And so I think for my clients, a lot of them into the external, they're into the head of, doing things and giving things, but giving from the heart is giving a smile, giving a thank you, a touch on the shoulder, just letting them know I'm here. Doesn't have to be anything external, just smiling, caring, touching, and just let with your presence, your essence, know that I'm here. Anytime you need me, I'm here, and you can depend on me. Because sometimes we can't have nobody that we can depend on to come through when we're at the lowest moment. There's nobody there to say those things or to show love, compassion.
So what you're really saying is that you became the role model for your clients. You
Mhm.
opened your heart, you gave that loving touch, and you made it easy for them to feel accepted. That's the tool that you've used to model for them so that they could then more easily slip into doing that for the people around them and making
Yeah,
their
I told
relationships
them how
more
what
successful.
I did, my shortcomings, my fault, so they could open up and share about theirs. So I started role modeling what I had done wrong and how they might do it differently.
I love that. And I think as coaches and therapists and counselors, quite often we forget that we give them tools, but we don't give them ourselves because we're taught to put up a little bit of a barrier. So there's a little bit of professionalism so that the client feels that they are, in a professional space. But I think that what you've just said, Dr. Ida, is so important that as coaches and counselors and therapists and leaders, that we bring that human side of ourselves to reach out to them a little bit more, perhaps transparently, with a lot more physicality. Even if we aren't physically touching them, they can feel our touch from a distance, sort of thing. Thank you, Dr. Ida. That was so valuable. And I love the way that you said it. Julie, your turn. And back to you.
Yeah, what a valuable conversation. And again, I am in awe of this incredible panel.
Me too.
The one thing that I tell my clients, and if you've heard my podcast or heard me speak before, you know that I'm going to tell you that consistent action gets you traction. And for most of us, when it comes to self-love, again, I go back to that we can't go from 0 to 100 overnight. And that's where we all go wrong, because we think that, we need to change and we need to go big. Think about how many people decided that they're going to go for a 1-mile walk when they've been sitting on the couch all along, or when they're going to then, go to the gym for a couple of hours or whatever. You cannot hate yourself to change. You cannot, create change with hating yourself. You have to create change through the self-love and compassion that you have for yourself. So that consistent action doesn't mean showing up for an hour every day. It means that you are 1% better every day.
Yeah. Yes.
Today you showed up here. This is your best. And even if you did something different, maybe you started drinking water, and rather than thinking you're going to drink a gallon, you filled your cup. That's all you did for today. And tomorrow, maybe you drink half a cup. And then the day after, you drink the whole cup. And that's how you start to create the momentum. But focus on not the big gap that is between where you are and where you want to be, but focus on that incremental change that you're making, and celebrate that and love that you're 1% better, but that's consistently showing up.
Brilliant. If you wouldn't mind, and I did not intend to share about myself at all on this panel, because as a host, it's not really my place to do that. But your comment right now really brings home what's been happening in my life for the past 2 months. Very quickly, 2 months ago, I got sick with something that's an autoimmune thing. And the upshot of it was my body shut down my ability to breathe. And I ended up in acute care for a while and in a rehab hospital for another while. I'm home today. Today is, I left the hospital this morning and I'm here this evening. Thank you. However, 3 weeks ago, I had to learn how to breathe and talk at the same time, because I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, and I couldn't breathe and talk and walk at the same time. So I was on a wheelchair with oxygen 3 weeks ago. So the first thing that I did, your 1% change for me was to tell my brain that it had to remember, it disconnected the breathing with the motion. So I had to tell my brain that it had to remember how to connect the breathing with the motion. And to do that, I learned to take a breath in and say the word, one word only, just one, on the out breath. So my conversations were very slow and very long and choppy, but it was a breath in, say the word on the out breath. And that was the only way that I would have learned how to do that. Learning to connect the breath with the motion, lift my foot off the ground. I had to breathe in, and put my foot back down on the ground. I had to breathe out. So I learned how to walk again doing that. And then I added singing to the walking. And then I added dancing to the walking. I had a very, very, very fast recovery because of that. So, and I shared it with all the people in rehab that would hear me. And one lady told me that they'd been trying to get her to stand for a whole week. She had not been able to stand. She did my breath in, and she actually lifted herself off her bed, and she stood. Yesterday, it was woo! So it's your one. We're not able to hear you. I think you've gone mute.
I said amazing. I'm sorry, I was coughing. So I
Don't
didn't want to
cough.
cough. And what a beautiful story, Sue. And thank you so much for sharing that. I think that people need to hear that we have to give ourselves grace. And if you had
1%.
set 1% of grace, if we don't do it, how can we expect somebody else to do it for us?
If it's too hard to do the 1%, do 0.5%. Do 1% of 1%. It doesn't matter. Just do.
Move forward.
Yeah. So Julie, I think that we have all shared an incredible piece of information here. And I'm so grateful for it. I think you have something to say because you're on our screen. Hold on. 1 second. Would somebody like to add to what Julie said or Dr. Ida said? Anybody would like to add?
Well, I heard the word grace, and I really feel that grace and mercy starts with us accepting it for ourselves from the divine, from source, from spirit. And once we accept that for ourselves, we can give it out. But we need to really find a source of rejuvenation and I guess renewal that is there's only one energy in the universe, big energy, that we can tap into that can heal us and allow us to heal ourselves. Because when we heal ourselves with that grace and mercy and compassion, then we can be compassionate with others. But we have to heal ourselves. Like say, physician heals ourselves. We constantly need to tap into that grace and mercy so that we can be supported, because nothing outside of us can sustain us but the grace and mercy inside of us that's constantly available to us. We just have to be open to receiving that grace, which is always available. We just need to say, I need help from source and divine, and then get it inside of us so we have something to give outside of us.
Would you say that kind of taps into, I guess it's passion? As another face of love,
up in everything, really. It talks about all of that because it incorporates all of us, because we are energy system and we need to heal from the inside out. So that grace and mercy, we want to give it to ourselves first so that we can share it outside. Like you were saying, one action, just one act of self-love, and all that curiosity and all of that. We need to constantly be curious about what life is, who we are, how we play, what part we play in the world, and realize that we're valuable. Every second, every breath we take, every person that comes in our life is a valuable resource that we can help us to heal ourselves and heal the planet.
Donna, Julie, how would you like to weigh in on what Dr. Ida has just said?
I would love to weigh in, because I think that a lot of times, especially in the 21st century, people have given their power away to COVID, whatever political party you're on, or wherever the advertisements that are coming and hitting people from all different directions, that they lose their sense of self, which therefore you lose your self-love and you self-doubt. And a lot of people are caught up in this, in the pharmaceutical world, just trying to stay calm. I really believe with every fiber of my being, this thing with mankind, or going back to life kind. And like what Dr. Ida was saying about the soul and the spirit, and what I was mentioning earlier, the closer we get to nature, the closer we get to our true nature. Because without a healthy planet, it's almost impossible for us to be healthy. So when we see that interconnection from the soil to the soul, when we see that connection, we have a greater passion and more curiosity to take that time for that self-care and that self-love and that compassion for all of life kind, then that 1%, what you're talking about, these incremental steps, which are so important, but we are also in a state right now as a species on this planet where we have the ability. I mean, Sue, what you did was over and beyond 1%. Even that was one breath, one step, or one breath, one word, and into a song in 3 weeks. I mean, let's face it, that was 100%. That was over and beyond. And you have so much to teach all of us, and anybody out here who's listening to this who didn't hear what Sue just said. I mean, you gave me goosebumps. Okay.
I was actually told that my daughters were told, I was told at the beginning of all this, which was actually 5 weeks ago, that most likely the best case scenario would be that I'd be going home in a wheelchair on oxygen for the rest of my life and never walk.
Well,
that's what my daughters were facing 5 weeks ago.
You know, you have a supernatural miracle power about you that what your story, I mean, I've written 5 books and I would like to interview you for my 6th, but you know, that is, I think that to me, when we're thinking like that, just having a mindset like that, all of us, everybody who's listening to this, and whenever anybody takes the time to absorb that story, to realize that the human potential, when you come from that place, like what Sue was talking about, or that soul to soul, or just encompassing it all and having that will and that compassion and that compassion for ourselves. But you have a real gift and a responsibility to teach us all.
I have a huge responsibility. That's why I'm here tonight, actually.
Right. I mean, and you showed up and we're like, oh my gosh. So and
then I'm going back to bed.
That's okay. You can, that's good. Self-care.
Yeah.
So that's your self-love ticket right there. So, you know, I just want to, you know, just close that statement by just saying that, you know, what percentage of our brain do we use? Sometimes we hear it's 5%, sometimes 10%, sometimes 1%. But when you go and you put 100% of our effort into making a transformation, it can happen. And it does, but like people, I've talked to people who are in therapy from 3 to 30 years. What's wrong with just saying 3 months, I'm making these goals, making these benchmarks, so we're not dependent on anything except for, like we were talking about earlier, that Dr. Ida and all of us, that inner sense of self, that self-worth, and also thinking about future generations, are your daughters, right? Your sons, your children, your grandchildren, and beyond, and how your story is going to thread through every fiber of their being.
And they were with me all the way through it.
Yeah, when you know that, you know, the trauma, past trauma, I mean, we could talk about that for the rest of our lives, or we could talk about how we had this past trauma and how we're taking that experience and we are transforming to positivity. It was then, and you know, I've dealt with people with all kinds of layers and levels of trauma, but you know, who wants to live in that space? And when we take that time to do that thoughtful process that you did, you have work to do. You don't have time to sit around in a wheelchair with oxygen.
No.
So I think it's just incredible. And
we will talk. We will talk. Let's bring Julie on now, because we're coming up on the last 10 minutes in our hour. And I know that Sophia has lots to offer and tell people about Sacred You. But before we go, I really like to bring Julie on so that she has a chance to add her commentary to this, because I think she's got some interesting stuff to share too. Julie, are you there?
I am here. I'm listening again, and you know, I'm really being, I guess, called or directed to speak on a little bit of what Donna said, and really touching back on everything that we've said. We have to really be able to be open to the idea that it's possible, that
Mhm.
there is a possibility for us to shift, evolve, learn how to self-love, have that compassion, live our passions out, once we're connected to that mission that we each have. But most importantly, our stories, they don't define us. They're not the fortune teller of what
Yeah.
is coming in the
Yes.
future. What has happened to us doesn't dictate what happens in the future for you. And again, I speak mostly, again, for myself as I say this, that it's really important to be open to the idea that we can learn how to connect to our body, learned how to connect to the ideas and thoughts that maybe we haven't allowed to be out and play in outside of ourselves, because we want to define ourselves by what the world thinks we should do or say or be,
Mhm.
and that prevents us from showing up and putting our
Mhm.
best foot forward into the universe. I also think that the past trauma that we've had, because all of us have, in for many years, I didn't even believe that I was a person that suffered through trauma. And I never wanted to identify it that way, because I thought trauma was reserved for the people who had tragedies in their lives. But the reality is that we are in a flawed world. And we carry those experiences, and they're so ingrained in our body that when we choose to not accept that, then it's very difficult to move forward in whatever direction we want, especially the direction of our lives, our dreams, our goals. And it prevents us from loving ourselves. So accept yourself compassionately, be open to the idea that change is possible. Don't allow your past to define how you can live in your future, but really be present, and be present with curiosity in the right now. And that's going to help to build that momentum for you. And it's going to show and create the evidence for you that you're lovable, that you're capable, that you can improve from where you were yesterday, and that you are enough no matter where you are. So those are the thoughts that kept coming up as I keep taking in what all the amazing things that everybody is sharing here.
Honestly, I had no idea what was going to come out of this conversation. I made up the title 3 months ago, hadn't even looked at it until Sophia reminded me yesterday that I had a panel today. And I went, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do it because I can. So I really had no idea what was going to come out of this conversation. I can't be more thrilled. You and your shared panel mates have brought such different layers and textures and flavors to this conversation that I think anybody listening to it will have found something especially for them that they can walk away with and make part of themselves. And maybe it will be the one little thing that pushes them um, into those 5 love faces or 5 life faces that will help them to become this where they want to be successful in life. So before we end, I'm just going to repeat the 5 life faces that create the love that we need in our lives to be successful in any kind of relationship, starting with ourselves, of course. And that is self-love is first, compassion for yourself first, compassion for other people after you have compassion for yourself, passion for your own life and your own excitement and your own identity, and then passion you can share out to other people so you can bring them into your passion, curiosity for everything around you, not just what's going to make you more money or make you more loved, curiosity for why the bees buzz and why the sun shines. It all opens it up. It's the same thing. And finally, mankind was my term. Life kind was Donna's. So we're going to switch that over to life kind because it's so much more embracing. And that is our panel discussion for tonight. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for bringing your brilliance, your wonderfulness, your passion, your curiosity, your self-love, and your fascination with life kind. And now we're going to turn this over to Sophia to end our conversation for tonight.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you so very much. And may I just first of all just take a moment to turn off my phone, but to honor you, to really honor you, as you mentioned. You know, I think you're an amazing woman and such an inspiration. So thank you. And whilst you're there, let's just run around quickly, and for anyone to share any programs, any giveaways, or anything that you'd like to promote. So Sue, I know you are the host of the Life Force Activators Tribe, and I do believe that, like, you are an inspiration, and it's the life force within you that has helped you recover so much. So just tell us two quick things, a little bit about your business, if you've got any giveaways for tonight, but also about your Life Force Activators Tribe.
Okay. At the moment, I don't have any giveaways because I'm actually rescaling my business as a result of this illness. It's going to be coming back with a slightly different direction based on my experience, because this is important for everybody. I'll get back to the village with all of that when I'm ready. Life Force Activators will become active again the first or second week in February, most likely the second week in February, with a lot more programs and little videos and conversations, all about life force in a different way, things that I learned in the rehab hospital from the people that I was living with, who were going through severely complicated recoveries, who would not come back nearly as well as I did, and never will, but had such force, had such beauty. So my Life Force Activators will now be turning around as well. It'll have a real focus on regeneration and of yourself, and bring total passion to whoever you are, no matter where you are in your life. That's enough for that. If you need to find me, my website is it's already in the I'm sure everybody put it in, so you can find it. So right now I'm in flux, I'm in transition. Everything I've done for the past 15, 20 years is going to change a lot. That's me, and I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. And we have put your links in the comments, and for everyone who's watching. We do actually have quite a few people watching us on all the different platforms. Of course, Sue is the wonderful host of the Life Force Activators Tribe, which you can find out about in the links as well. So what about Dr. Ida? What about you? Do you have any giveaways for all our audience members today?
Absolutely. I have the intuition, free intuition book that helps you to look at your divine self and your purpose of being on the planet, and why you were created, and what you can do to make your life more richer. And that's the intuition book. It's on my website, www.askdrida.com. And also I have an upcoming class, Awaken Your Intuition 5-week program starts on the 1st of February. And I'm certainly looking for people to take a part of that. And I have a special discount for that. So information about that is on my website. But if you have any questions about it, I think I have a link there, a calendar link. Sophia, do I have a calendar link where they can?
Yes.
That's where you can find out. Yeah, so you can find out more about me, and I would love to have you join the Awaken Intuition class, where I activate all the chakras in the body and all the centers in the body, especially the crown chakra, which is gives you love and abundance and prosperity. And so I'd love to share those gifts with you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And yes, all your links are in the comments. So thank you for that. And what about our beautiful, amazing Donna all the way from Hawaii? Do you have any giveaways that you'd like to share, or any programs that you'd like to share?
First of all, I'd like to share how much I love and appreciate you for all you do and all you be with Sacred You. And I would love to leave everybody with one really important thing to this conversation that Sue brought to the table, which I just loved so much. Thank you, Sue. And one of the things that I really help people with these 5 languages of love to do is to redefine success and wealth. And when you do that, languages of love come through everything when you start redefining that. And if on my website, I do have a little freebie section, but where I have a soul to soul assessment, and I really do love helping people to do their life plans and their business plans. And when you go onto the website, which all the links are on there, you'll see that you can sign up for a complimentary 30-minute consultation with me, where I would love nothing more than to listen to you, your sacred side. And there's no obligation. I am really looking to help as many people so that more people are helping life kind. I also want to invite everybody, when you go onto my website, you'll see you can sign up for my mailing list, where I do positivity blogging every week. And I'm a professional photographer, nature photographer and food photographer. And so you would be getting positivity either in your box every day, just a real beautiful picture or a quote, or just information. I always promote whatever Sacred You's doing and other people who are doing beautiful work in the world. And my own show, which is called A Dose of Positivity, which airs live from Hawaii, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday. And I interview thought leaders, change makers, health professionals that put social and environmental justice at the forefront of their endeavors. And it's a really fun time. You can ask questions of really incredible guests. Sophia's coming on, actually, I think in February sometime, at the end of January. We're going to be doing sound healing right here at and from the Big Island. But my motto is, why retire when I can inspire? I'm pretty much retired that way. So I do a lot of giving and loving. And the way you can support our efforts, what I do is, that link will be in there. If you go to my Eco-Spired by Nature, you'll see this beautiful shop, and all the proceeds from my work go to protect life kind. And so I really hope you'll geek me out, and I get the opportunity to get to know you better and serve you any way that I can. And love to everybody on this panel. This was amazing.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you. And we will certainly be looking for that and putting all your links in the comments as well. So thank you. And I want to honor you for everything that you do for the planet and for life kind. You are amazing. So thank you. And Julie, what about your beautiful self? Have you got anything that you would like to share? Any programs, any giveaways that you want to talk about quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Sophia, again, and my co-leads here. I want to encourage you that if you want to visit or learn Tiny Habits, I can walk you through the program. I will coach you for 5 days for free. It is part of the Tiny Habits Academy, and we are happy to always be able to teach how you can incorporate tiny habits into your life. I believe the link, goconfidentlycoaching.com, which is my website, /quick links, will take you to the Tiny Habits sign up. So all you have to do is add your name. Also, you can, if you are interested in getting a copy of my book, the book is at Confident, and this is, I'll send you a free copy of my book. This is the #1 bestseller, and it is Confident You, Simple Habits to Live the Life You Have Imagined. And that is at confidentyoubook.com /hey girl. So feel free to go in there and grab the book. But at the goconfidentlycoaching.com /quick links, you can also connect with me, and there's other freebies in there. One of my favorite freebies is the quiz that tells you what ways do you sabotage yourself, because we all have these sabotaging behaviors and judges and different voices in our brain that keep us from being the best version of ourselves. And once we figure out, with some curiosity, what are those things that are keeping us from being better or achieving the things that we want, then we are free to live as we are meant to. So feel free to take advantage of any of those. And again, goconfidentlycoaching.com /quick links.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you ever so much for sharing that. And yes, definitely for everyone who is watching. And we've got quite a few people, like I said, who are watching us. We've got Trina and Bernadette and numerous others who I don't know, who Facebook's telling me Trina and Bernadette are watching, and a few others as well. So for everyone who has been joining us, I do hope that you've had a wonderful panel discussion or learnt all about the 5 faces of love, which are very different. When Sue first talked about doing the 5 faces of love and how it drives relationships, I'm thinking that we'll be talking about the other 5 faces of love. But I'm so glad that you have got these ones, because they are amazing, Sue. We've got so many panel discussions coming up. We've got 30 coming up over the next 3 months. This is just our first one. Do click on the links to have a look at them all. In just 2 days' time, we've got Is Fear Stopping You from Living Your Best Spiritual Life? And then numerous other ones, Healing Energy, 5D Romantic Relationships, Divine Connections, and so many, many, many more that you can come and join us for. And if you do want to join the community, join Sue and Dr. Ida and Donna, and you never know, maybe Julie will, one day too will, part of our sacred community. You can join us just for $1. Join us today just for $1 Australian dollar. Try out all of our tribes. We've got over 20 special interest tribes, including Life Force Activators with Donna and lots of other ones, lots of human designs and self-love and self-esteem. And we've even got a magical playground tribe. You can try them all out just for $1 Australian dollar for 3 weeks. And then after that, it's just 15 Australian dollars a month. And that also includes coming to join us for all these panel discussions as well at no extra cost. So again, thank you. Seriously, thank you. And lastly, before I leave, a big shout out to our VAs who have been there in the background, to Angel and to Wilma, who have been there in the background and helping us so much. So thank you. And thank you to all these beautiful women who are giving of their time and sharing of their passion. It is really an honor.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks. Enjoyed everyone.